Hi, I'm James Curry, and this is the Macaulay Foundry. Today we're going to talk about painting. This is a prop log I cast out for a production called Sheevil Dead, and while it's a good casting and urethane foam, so it's nice and light, the paint job is very basic. And if you want something that looks like a good prop, paint is essential. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to do what's basically a modified dry brush technique. And a dry brush technique, you'd put a base coat on, and then using a highlighting color, you'd put paint in your brush and then take out as much paint as you could so the brush is almost dry, and then wipe that on and that'll give you highlights. We're going to do much the same, but rather than start with this brown, rather than start with the brown, we're going to start with a black base coat. Remember, wood has different colors in it. It's not one color. These come in shades and in patterns. This is going to be the color that winds up in the deep cracks. Now, this is a gloss, and for wood I would recommend doing everything in a flat whenever possible. But we'll start there. Now, if we wanted the wood to be burnt, gloss black is a great way to do it, because it really does look like it's burnt now. We're going to let this dry, and I'll finish up the last little bit in a minute, and then we'll come back and put on our first coat of brown color to make our log look realistic. Alright, so now we have our basic black log, and we're going to start painting it darker colors first, lighter colors last. And since we're essentially trying to give this thing highlights, multiple levels of them, we don't want to put a lot of paint on each layer. In fact, there's a definite artistic component to this in that if you don't put enough on, you can put a second coat. You can put a dark layer over a light layer, although I'd recommend putting another light layer on top of it. You just keep playing with it till you get to where you want. But we'll start with this. Now, being that this is the first coat of brown we put on this, I'm going to make it a little on the heavy side. I'll let that sit. I'll do up the other piece, and we'll be back when that's dry. So, we put on our first coat of brown. That's our dark brown. We're going to cover it up with another coat of a only slightly lighter brown. But this is a flat. And again, we're not trying to cover the entire log with an even, uniform coat. We're trying to make it less so. Some of the more observant will be noticed I'm spraying at an angle, and what that does is that leaves a lee area in the spray pattern where the old color or the other color shows through. Okay, now we're starting to get some depth in that paint. I'll do the other end here in a minute, and we'll be back in just a moment. Now it's time to give our piece some of those highlights we talked about. And we're going to use the lightest of the paints we have. Now, what I could do is if I had a disposable garbage bag or those bags you get from the grocery store, I could wad that up and use that. But rather than do that, I'm just going to use my latex glove here. Now what that does is it applies paint only to the very highest areas of the piece of wood. I'll do the other side, we'll come back and we'll see how it's finished. And that's one way to do a dry brush technique and give us this lovely faux finish. Make sure to give us a thumbs up and leave a comment on what you'd like me to do next time. I'm James Curry and this is the Macaulay Foundry.